Hey, this is Pierre-Yves Delacote talking. I often present to the users what are the Microsoft 365 benefits just to start the journey so people can project themselves into what's coming if it's not there yet, or maybe what they didn't see when Microsoft 365 was deployed. And actually, this deck, some elements of this deck, I'm using some of these with customers in a focus group. So the focus group is there to first, project themselves in what's exciting, maybe what they're gonna be able to have access to and change that can change their life. And the other part of the focus group that I won't discuss here is to ask them what is the priority. Here I'm focusing only on the collaboration piece of Microsoft 365. Obviously, Microsoft 365 will take, you know, several days to dig in the benefits, but here I'm just focusing on the big benefits on the collaboration piece. So let's start with OneDrive. So the way I position OneDrive is really, I think it's important to position it as, some sort of personal product where you can work on your draft or personal documents and store those documents while they're in a draft mode, and then you can switch them to another piece of collaboration. But still, the main benefits are here. The first one that applies to all Microsoft 365 Commons is the anytime, anywhere, any device. I think this is key, even if some organizations don't allow that, but most of the time it's one of the biggest benefits is to have access to your documents from wherever you are and on whatever device you have. There's some misconception. Some people think that OneDrive is not working well on Mac, and it's not true. Yeah, there were a lot of changes that made uh, the user experience on Mac very similar to a Windows PC experience. So I think that's one of the piece that can reassure people that they can have access to their documents from wherever they are. The autosave feature, you might not unphase that, but I think it's important because it's when you're working on documents, you never save these documents as long as it's stored in OneDrive. It's really you as soon as you're leaving the document, it's saved, and there's it saves time. It saves confusion. When you're working without the autosave, you're not sure if you save the documents, and so it's you don't have to think about that. Everything is done, and with that, there's a versioning that comes with it because every time it's saved automatically, there's a version that is created, and this. I think up to 500 versions by default. So there's there's no problem with managing your documents. It saves automatically. The versioning is there. You don't have to figure out what is the latest version. I think a big advantage if you're still want to use email to some sort of collaborate, even if I don't like that, but still there's some people who are doing it. Um, Sending an email, I think sending an email with no email attachment using OneDrive is probably a piece that is not well understood. You can, when you drag and drop a document in an email, in the email, you can say, yeah, hey, upload this document in the OneDrive. So now it's not really attached to the email, it's a link. And it appears that it is attached, but it's a link to your OneDrive. So now there's only one version, a centralized version of the document. So that's a big difference too. And so you can modify the document after sending the link, and people can still have the latest version of the document. That's a big difference. I think the fact that you can modify the documents either in a browser or in the desktop app also is a big advantage in OneDrive. People might want to sometimes to use it from the browser. Some people are rather stay in the browser all day. Also, it depends. Some people don't have access to Office desktop version because they don't have access to Word desktop because uh, they might be on a shared PC and everything is browser based. And there are also situations you're working from home, so you might not have Office at home. So having access to a fuller browser is making a big difference. And quite frankly, you can do a lot of things in the browser. There's the differences between the desktop and the browser are smaller and smaller. So there's a lot of features, and even you have some features in the browser that don't exist in the desktop app because the browser is evolving faster because it's SaaS oriented. So there's a lot of benefits working also wherever you want, browser or Office or even on mobile. I think another benefit is to be able to navigate documents the way you want. If you want to navigate the documents in your OneDrive through the browser, you can do it. But also you can navigate your document in Windows Explorer. So that's also a huge benefit because some people are scared of changing the way they're working on documents. They used to use Windows Explorer or I don't remember the name of the equivalent in Mac, but there's equivalent in Mac. So you can navigate your documents uh, thanks to the OneDrive Sync client that help you to navigate your files, even if they're not really stored on your on your hard drive, unless you open the document or you're forced to store it on your hard drive. So there's a lot of benefits, and you don't have to think about, how do I sync the document. They're on your computer, and you have access to them. And if they're not stored on your computer, it will download the documents, and it will, the automate the saving in the cloud, manage the versioning. Also, another point that is beneficial because sometimes you need to share your documents. So you can share internally your documents and you can share them externally too. So it depends on your policy, organization policy, but technically you have the ability to share documents externally, and you can, there's a lot of features how you share it. You can put a password. You can expire the document, the access to the document. You can, when you're sharing the document, you can allow people to edit the document. You can forbid people to edit the document, so it will be in view only. You can prevent the people to download the document. So there's a lot of features when you're sharing the document that are very powerful. All the scenarios are there, and you'll find what is convenient for your use case. I think also that coming with the document experience, you can, and when you share a document, you can co-author this document with the people you shared the document with. So the co-authoring experience is just amazing. People are really very comfortable with it because it's a no-brainer. You open the document, if somebody else is already in the document, you will see where the person is typing the information. It's not that disturbing unless you really are, a lot of people working on the same piece of documents, but most of the time the benefit of co-authoring is you don't have to think if you need to unlock your document just like you do in the file share. So other people can open the document here. You can work together at the same time or work at different time. There's no issue at all. And you can still track changes. You can also, there are some features where you can see what were the last changes in the document. So that's pretty powerful and pretty impacting. Even if I'm not sure if this feature is well, um, it might not be the best place to collaborate. OneDrive might not be the best place to collaborate. I think it's more for Teams, but this feature is existing in OneDrive also. It's existing everywhere. Definitely one big pain is having to, for a lot of customers, having to VPN in to open documents on their file share. Here with OneDrive, no need of VPN, no need of VPN, no problems with VPN. Just to open the document, I need to launch the VPN, wait, and sometimes I have issues, the VPN is dropping, and then I lost the connection with the documents, and now I'm in a mess. Here, there's no problem with that. A big advantage also is by default at minimum you have 1 TB of storage for most of the plan, Microsoft 365 plan. So that means, it's hard to reach the 1 TB limit. It's even more, probably more than what you have on your computer. So more storage, and don't be confused. It's not because you have 1 TB of storage, and if you're using this 1 TB, you can go up to 5, and then you can upgrade to even more. But it doesn't mean that it will take this place on your computer unless you're forced to synchronize all the documents. So you will have access to the documents on your computer, but they won't be stored on your computer unless you open them. And finally, I think that's big piece is that everything is secured. A lot of people at first think that moving in the cloud is not secure. Actually, it's the opposite. It's more secure than having your documents on premise in your environment. It's just like if would you rather store hide your money in your house or store it at the bank? So that's the exact same thing, because there's a lot of way to protect your documents, a lot of technology like MFA. Just be sure that you're the right person accessing the documents, especially when you're out of your organizational network. But there are also other technologies like MIP to protect and eventually encrypt the documents to be sure that even if the document is sent by any means outside or to somebody you don't want to have access to this document, the document won't be, they will have access to the document, but they won't be able to open it. And there are other features like DLP to avoid that some information are shared, like social security numbers or other information that are not compliant with your organization. And finally, there's feature or product, I don't remember because Microsoft is changing their name all the time. It's part of Defender, but you can control the way people are accessing OneDrive. You can say, if people are accessing OneDrive from China, I ban it. Even if the MFA, the right MFA is the right identity, right password, I can ban it. So there's a lot of security features around OneDrive. So let's talk about SharePoint. So SharePoint, basically, it's almost the same, same benefits in OneDrive because it's the same, almost the same product. But SharePoint is for a wider audience, so it's more for departments, business units, divisions, call them, or the organization. And the way I try to position SharePoint is more to store final documents like a knowledge base, like departmental information that are final, that you don't want people to collaborate on them. They're not living documents. So most of the time we try, and also there's the content management positioning, so because you can use SharePoint to build your intranet with a lot of design. So there's two pieces in SharePoint. There's a content-based environment and there's a document-based environment. So, but you benefit of everything that I mentioned in OneDrive, including the synchronization of documents. It's really easy to create a good-looking intranet. You have a lot of web ports available. And you can extend it with other web parts that either are free or you can purchase to make your intranet, for example, very compelling. You can have access to maybe different sources of information coming from Salesforce or other it's easy to build your intranet, and with a very good design, without really an expertise in content management. So you just need to understand how web parts are working, what web parts are available, and there's a lot of web parts that are easy to set up with. You just have to um, set some, add some images from, if it's for example, there's a web part called Hero that is real, have a nice look, and you can, this is basically a web part that reference to different links, and you just have to add the links and add an image that represent the links. You can grab free images to represent the links, and it will be represented the way you want, and it will render also in the mobile. So it's pretty powerful to design a new SharePoint site without being an expert. Definitely the search experience is very powerful. You can search and filter by date, by type of documents, so it's really powerful. You have the ability also, when you store documents, and you want to be notified if the document has changed. You can put alerts on the document, so you can say, hey, if this new policy is updated, I want to be notified by email. And so you can put an alert on the document, you can put an alert on the folder, and you will receive an email whenever the document or the folder is changing. It can be the document is deleted, it can be the document is modified, it can be there's a new document. There's a lot of alerts, and you can receive an email. You can even receive a text, but I think email is the way to go. There are some features also you might not know, but there are ways to see who viewed the documents, who opened the documents. It's not set by default, so you need to change some settings to see it, but you will be able to see who had access, who had viewed a document. That can be very important if you're sharing documents and you want to be sure that people know they are there. So you, it will be a good indicator to see who viewed the documents. And another benefit, and there are tons of other benefits, but here I listed the main benefits I see very impactful for a lot of people. You can bring your intranet in your pocket, so that means you can have access to your SharePoint from a mobile app, the SharePoint app on mobile, and you can have access to your intranet directly on your mobile. So that's also very powerful, especially for frontline worker. And Teams. So Teams is built on SharePoint. So you get all the benefits of SharePoint. SharePoint got all the benefits of OneDrive. So you have a lot of benefits. And I think the biggest benefits of Teams is it's a one-stop shop. So it's really where you can work and you can centralize your work and you can have access to everything. And more and more is coming to Teams. Now there's Viva components that are coming to Teams. You can do almost everything in Teams except email. So it's a centralized way to have access to everything. So it's really a one-stop shop for not only collaboration but also communication with meetings and chat. Obviously, the meetings part of it and the chat part of it. So I'm not going to describe that, but really it's a very good experience in meetings. I think Microsoft is adding more and more features that are helping any situation of having meetings and webinar and live events. I think there still needs some improvement for webinars and live events, but still the meetings experience is really very powerful compared to other platforms, except maybe Zoom, but the rest is really far away, and it brings almost all the features that you will need. But still there's maybe some education to be done, especially this one that bothers me all the time. People not using the noise cancellation so we can hear what's going in the background. I think you can still educate people, and but there's a lot of nice feature there. The chat and group chat is really powerful. It's based also when you're sharing documents in a chat or a group chat, it will be stored in OneDrive, so it will benefit of OneDrive there too. Obviously, the presence is also part of the teams. We might not talk a lot about the presence and how it works, but I think it's worth to explain to the people, how it works. And you can manage the status. You can change, for example, the status saying, today you're in the office, um, or today you're working from home, and you can enhance your status with some information. And it's everything in sync up with Outlook. So there's every time you're entering a meeting, then your status change without you doing anything. Every time you're sharing your desktop, your screen, it switch to do not disturb because you don't want to see any pop-up while you're sharing. There's a lot of synchronization between Outlook and Teams and even the computer. Um, Also, I think the most transformative part of Teams is the collaboration. So collaboration in context really is a big, big thing. You can create a team, you can organize your team by channels, so work streams or subjects. And now you can chat in a channel and you can have a discussion, share documents, and you can have tabs and connectors. So you're in a dedicated environment that is already segmented. You already know what's going on. You have all the context, so that's really beneficial. You have a cockpit that bring you all the information you need to work, so that's really powerful. You don't need email when the communication is happening. So everything is in chat in the team in channel. So you really, if you apply some best practices, some guidance. If you explain this guidance to your peers and how you want to work in a team, then you should see a huge decrease in your inbox. My personal experience, I have no unread email in my inbox, and I have very low number of email because I convince the people around me, and it's also a corporate decision to work in teams. And so I don't have a lot of emails. I still have emails with customers, external customers, but even sometimes I try to convince my customer to work in a team together, so we don't have to, work with email, and we're not lost. We know everything is informed. Sometimes I've been in the past in project where only a few people in a project were in an email, so a lot of other people didn't know what was happening, and it's creating confusion. So no need of email. So it's really also, Teams is interconnected with everything. We talk about Outlook, OneDrive when you're using group chat, SharePoint is the backbone of Teams. You have other components like planners, forms, and Power Apps. There's tons of integration in Teams. Everything is designed to fit in Teams. Um, the collaboration on documents is really easy. It's not like in SharePoint where you have to manage, the users and with different level of permissions. Here, everybody has the same permission on document management. So there's pros and cons, but you need to be aware how it works. But the concept is to be transparent. Everybody has the same access and can modify the documents, edit the documents, and you can still, if you want, really to manage some documents and protect them not to be edited by some members of the team. You can still go into SharePoint and change it, but it's not the best practice. I think the best practice is to share documents so it can be a no-brainer to work all together in the document. If you have the right plan, you can have external telephony. So that means from Teams, you can call a number that is not in Teams number. It's whatever phone number you want to call, and now there's a really there are great enhancements around this telephony experience when you where you can Microsoft partner with a lot of providers where you can transition a call from from a phone call from direct and switch it to data, and even and when you have Wi-Fi you can transition it to Teams without losing the connection, without losing the experience of the call. So that's really uh, you know probably the best in class of experience in calling. So you don't have to think, do you do you have a connection or not? You do it in Teams, and it will find a way for you. And finally, I think external collaboration is a big advantage of Teams, and it became even more a bigger advantage with the new features called Share Channel. But even before, you can invite people to join a team, external people. So that's what I'm doing a lot of time. Either my customers are inviting me into their teams if they already have teams, and we're discussing in teams, and I'm a guest, or I invite them in my team, create a team to collaborate with them. So there's no boundaries. And with Share Channel, it's even better because you can really, um, they can still be in their tenant in their teams and see my channel that I'm sharing with them, but in their environment, so they don't have to switch tenant, which is not a very good experience. So really, it's collaboration without boundaries. So the way to summarize this is really in the old world, and maybe you still live some of this in your old world, in what I call an old world. In the old world, you were using text. You don't need to do that. You can chat. You have email thread. Now you have post in the channels or in a group chat. You had maybe a directory to search people, and now everything can be done in Teams. You maybe had a specific survey tool. Now you can survey directly in Teams. You can pull people. You were probably some people are still using Excel for planning. Now you can do everything in Teams in Planner, or even you can embed Project Web if you have Project Web. You have a separate environment to store your documents, a file share, or even SharePoint. Now we can store all your documents in Teams. You were taking notes, and now you can store your notes in the team and add it as a tab, and so everybody has access to the meeting notes, for example. Um, Maybe you had a whiteboard. Here you have a whiteboard in Teams. When you're doing a meeting, you can share this whiteboard, and soon you'll be able to share it externally. Maybe you were in a room and projecting your presentation. Here, your screen, you're sharing your screen, you're sharing your presentation. Maybe you have different tools. Maybe you had Slack and GoToMeeting and Zoom, and you're switching from tools depending on the people. And here, everything can be done. All virtual meetings, all chat can be done in the same place in Teams. And finally, you were calling. So now you can call directly in Teams, either from your computer, a browser, or smartphone. So this is really the way I present the free components of Microsoft 365, free collaboration components, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. You can pick up whatever is making sense in your context, but here I wanted to share some benefits I highlight with the customers, so you can maybe leverage them in your context. Hope this was helpful.